I'm Michael Brein, the Travel Psychologist. What? You've never heard of the Travel Psychologist? Well, I might be the only one in the world, really. Strange as that may seem, the psychology of travel is the psychology of what it's like to have that experience. Leaving home, whether it's in your own country or in some exotic foreign place. And that's what I study. And believe it or not, I got my PhD in that subject. I know that sounds a little strange, but the travel psychologist, being the travel psychologist, I am interested in hearing your experience, your travel experience, your wonderful, great, fantastic, good, interesting travel story. Or your bad, horrible experience where you managed to get out of a dangerous situation using your wits, or you learn how to get into good situations, being yourself, being friendly and open when you go to another country. That's the grist for the mill, what I have focused on the last 3 decades. I've been interviewing people such as yourself, just like yourself. I've been interviewing people, 1,500 people, 1,500 people, it's a lot of people, talking to them about anything and everything that happens to them, especially when they go to another culture. And what I'm doing is I'm collecting these very interesting travel experiences. Again, of great things that happen to people and very scary, horrible things. Because I want to know how you thought, how you felt. I want to know what you saw, what you heard. I want to know what you thought about these experiences when they were happening. Now, they may have been very scary things that happened to you, and you managed to escape and get out of that situation. So what I'm doing is I'm weaving the psychology behind these experiences all throughout the great stories that 1,500 people have told me. Now here's what I'm proposing. I would love to do an interview with you. I'd love to have you sit down and do this interview with me, whether it's in person or whether it's over the internet. Whether we do this on Skype or iChat, if you have a Mac. I'd like to interview you for a half hour or an hour, and I'll ask you questions. And every time I hear something that sounds psychological, I'm going to probe. I'm going to ask you about that experience. Now, many people tell me that doing this interview with me has caused them to really think about their experiences in a way they haven't thought of it before. Now, as a thank you for sharing a couple of these stories, I'm going to gift you with a copy of this book when it comes out. And this is going to be a monster book. It's going to be a thick book, just jam-packed with the experiences of 1,500 people. Now, I'm not going to tell you where your story is. You're going to have to read the book, and you're going to have to stumble upon it all of a sudden. My God, that's me. And then I'm going to have something to say about your story. Anyway, I think you're going to enjoy reading these experiences and then my take on the psychology behind your experience. You know, when we're traveling, what do we talk about when we meet other people? What do we sit around the campfire and talk about? We talk about what happened to us. You know, I'll ask you a question. Do you think it's safe to go canoeing on the Zambezi River in Zambia or Zimbabwe, formerly Northern and Southern Rhodesia? Do you think it's safe to jump in a canoe and just go out there? Well, you might be thinking, well, sure, why not? Hey, well, around the bend in Zambia, before you get to Victoria Falls, this is the world's most dangerous river rapids. They have like 28 turns in the river, and I talked to once upon a time a 6'6" big guy, you know, who said to me that was a white knuckle experience. Now, maybe you're a danger junkie or an adrenaline junkie, and you can't do anything that's scary enough to get the adrenaline flowing. But I want to tell you that he was scared. Well, I know that one person's adrenaline rush is another person's white knuckle experience. But anyway, on other parts of the Zambezi River, there are hippopotamuses and crocodiles, and I want you to know that once upon a time I met a national park ranger in South Africa, and I asked her the same question I'm asking you. Is it safe to go canoeing on the Zambezi River? And she looked at me and she said, "You're out of your mind if you go canoeing on the Zambezi River." Well, I want to know your experience of the Zambezi River, or I want to know when you were surrounded by perhaps gypsy children in Rome or Paris, and there's 50 hands in every single pocket that you have, and you know every single piece of your identification and every credit card and every piece of change and Roman money is disappearing and going off in every direction. I want to know, what did you think at that moment? Well, let me tell you. Let me get back to the Zambezi River. I had a moment where I was drifting towards these hippopotami, if I may call them that. I was drifting closer and closer and closer to these hippopotamuses. In the back of my canoe was a British journalist who knew even less than I did about canoeing. Because we started out, we went around in circles. He was supposed to steer this canoe. We went into the riverbank, and I used my oar to keep the brambles from scratching myself. I want to tell you something. As I was drifting toward these hippopotamuses, I was thinking to myself at that moment. I said to myself, "Well, Michael, are you going to panic? Or are you going to get a grip on things?" And in the distance, the two canoes that were way ahead of us, including the guide, the river guide, who must have been a quarter of a mile away, they evidently saw us drifting right into these hippopotamuses. And he yelled, "Put your oars in the water on your left and paddle! Paddle, paddle, paddle!" And I avoided eye contact with these hippopotamuses and drifted away from them and managed to be here today telling you my take on, is it safe to go canoeing on the Zambezi River? No, it is not safe. And furthermore, a river guide, a national park guide, a game ranger who says that he's a ranger and he has experience in training, they don't always know what they're doing. So I'm the travel psychologist, and I want to hear your stories, and I want to have either an interview or interview you in person or on the internet, or have you send them to me. Please check out my website. Go to www.michaelbrein.com. It's one word. I'll spell it, since everybody misspells my name. MICHAELBREIN, I before E, except after me, .com. And get in contact with me. I know you're going to enjoy this experience, and you're going to enjoy the book when it's done. Let's get together. Let's talk story.